"Mom, I feel dizzy." The little girl's voice was barely louder than the ceiling fan creaking above them. She was curled up on the thin mattress, knees pulled to her chest, one hand pressed to her stomach like she could hold the hunger back. Her mother froze in the doorway. The room smelled like stale air and cold tea. There was nothing on the table except an empty plate and a cup with a cracked rim. "I'm okay," the mother lied quickly, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just rest. I'll bring something soon." The girl blinked slowly, exhausted. "Please," she whispered, her lips pale and dry. "Even a little bread." The mother swallowed hard. Her throat hurt, like she'd been holding back tears for days. She sat down beside her child and brushed the hair off her forehead. "Sweetheart, there isn't anything left." The girl stared at her, confused in that innocent way only children can be. "But you said we'd eat today." "I know." The mother's voice cracked. "I truly thought I could. I really did." The girl's eyes filled. "I'm so hungry, Mom," she murmured. "My legs don't feel strong." That was the moment the mother broke. She stood up so fast, the chair behind her scraped the floor. She grabbed her old scarf, wrapped it around her head, and kissed her daughter's forehead with trembling lips. "Don't sleep too deep," she said softly. "I'll come back before you do." The girl didn't answer. She only nodded, weakly, like she was saving her energy for breathing. The mother ran through the neighborhood streets as if the wind itself was chasing her. She knew who to go to. Every John did. At the end of the road stood the tallest house-fresh paint. Polished gate-bright windows, glowing like life, was always warm inside. She knocked with both hands. A maid opened the door halfway and looked her up and down, eyes lingering on the frayed edges of her sleeves. The mother tried to catch her breath. "Please, I need to speak to Mrs. Alden." The maid sighed, like the request itself was an inconvenience. "What is it about?" "It's my daughter. She hasn't eaten. She's sick." The maid hesitated, then disappeared into the house. A minute later, Mrs. Alden appeared at the door, wrapped in a silk robe, holding a glass of something cold. Her face held the expression of someone who rarely heard the word no. "What is it?" she asked. Not uncontagious, like the world's pain was a story happening somewhere far away. The mother's voice trembled. "My child is starving. I've asked everyone. I've tried everything. Please, even flour, rice, anything." Mrs. Alden blinked, then sighed as if she'd been given an annoying responsibility. "These are hard times for everyone," she said slowly. "You're not the only one struggling." The mother nodded quickly. I know, but she's just a child." Mrs. Alden pursed her lips, thinking. Then she lifted her chin slightly. "Go to Mr. Hargrove's shop," she said. "Tell him I'll cover it. I'll call him right now." The mother's eyes widened, like she'd just been handed life itself. "Oh, thank you, ma'am." Her hands pressed together. "May God bless you." Mrs. Alden gave a small, polite smile. Yes, just go." The mother nearly flew to the shop. Her feet slapped against the pavement, her heart pounding with hope she hadn't allowed herself to feel in days. Inside, the grocery store smelled like spices and dry grain. Shelves were half empty, but to her, it still looked like a palace. Mr. Hargrove stood behind the counter, counting coins. The mother rushed up, breathless. "Señora, Alden sent me," she said. "She said she'd call you." "She promised." The man looked up slowly. His eyes were sharp, unreadable. "Mrs. Alden," he repeated. "Yes. She said she'd cover some food for my daughter, please. She hasn't eaten." Mr. Hargrove stared for a moment, then shook his head. "She didn't call me." The mother's stomach dropped. "No, she said she would. I just came from her house." The grocer leaned back, arms crossing. "I don't give food without payment. That's how I stay open." The mother's voice rose, desperate now, cracking at the edges. "Please, just a little. A loaf of bread, nothing. I'll repay you. I'll work. I'll clean your shop. I'll do." He cut her off with a firm shake of his head. "Don't beg me. Go beg the people who love to promise things." The mother stood frozen, her whole body suddenly cold. So she didn't call. She whispered. Mr. Hargrove's mouth twisted slightly. If she wanted to help, she would have called. "Looks like you were played." The mother left the store in silence. The street didn't feel the same anymore. The sky looked flatter. The air felt heavier. Her legs moved, but she didn't feel them moving. At Mrs. Alden's house, she knocked again. Once, twice. A servant opened the door, annoyance already written on his face. Yes, the mother tried to stand tall, but her eyes were wet. "Sir, please." She said she would call. The shopkeeper said she didn't. The servant stared at her like she was dirt brought in by the wind. He turned his head and called inside. "Ma'am, she's back." A faint voice answered from deep within the house, sharp and irritated. "Again. Tell her I'm not available." The servant looked back at the mother and lied smoothly. "Mrs. Alden isn't home." The mother's lips parted. "But she's inside. I just heard her." The servant's eyes hardened. "Move along before I call someone." That was the moment the mother understood something cruel. Not everyone who speaks softly has a good heart. Some people simply hate looking like the villain. They prefer letting fate do the dirty work. When she arrived home, the sun was beginning to fall. The room was quiet, too quiet. "Mina," the mother called softly, stepping inside. No answer. She walked faster. "Mina, I'm back. I'm Erre." Erre. The girl lay on the mattress in the same position as before, but she didn't stir. The mother knelt beside her and touched her arm. Cold. Her breath vanished. "Mina!" she whispered again, but her voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. She shook her gently. Nothing, then harder. Still, nothing. The mother's hands flew to her mouth as a sound came out of her chest, something between a scream and a broken prayer. "No, no, 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 no." She pressed her ear to her daughter's mouth, as if she could steal even one breath back from the world. But hunger doesn't negotiate. It only takes. By evening, people filled the doorway. Neighbors poured in like floodwater the moment they heard tragedy had arrived. Oh my God. The poor child. How could this happen? She was such a sweet girl. Women cried dramatically, covering their mouths. Men shook their heads, angry at the world, like the world was an invisible monster nobody was responsible for. Someone brought flowers. Someone brought candles. Someone brought a tray of meat pies. A tray? The mother sat in the corner, her eyes dry, dry, like her tears had expired. She watched in silence as food piled up on the table. Food she had begged for. Food she had been denied. Food that now arrived. When it no longer mattered, one neighbor placed a loaf of bread down gently inside. "If only we knew sooner," she said, shaking her head. "We would helped." The mother looked at the bread for a long time. Then she laughed, once quietly. A sound with no joy in it. She stood up slowly, her voice calm but sharp enough to slice through the room. "You did know?" she said. Everyone turned. Her hands trembled, but her eyes didn't. "I came to you, I knocked on doors. I begged, I asked for the smallest thing." Silence. She pointed toward the table filled with food. "And now you've brought a feast." For a child who can't open her mouth anymore, no one spoke. Even the dramatic sobbing stopped. The mother's voice lowered to a whisper, heavy with truth. "This is what people do," she said. "They ignore the living and honor the dead. Because the dead don't ask questions. The dead don't need anything. The dead make you feel generous without costing you your comfort." She looked toward her daughter's still body. "If you want to be kind," she said, "do it while someone can still feel it."